Welcome. Today, we're diving into a story that honestly feels like it was ripped straight from a movie script. It's a case that shows how even the most high-tech, buttoned-up criminal operations can come crashing down because of one simple human mistake.
So that's the big question, right? How on earth does a single word, just one word, become the key that completely unravels a massive drug trafficking ring? It's an absolutely fascinating look at the cat and mouse game between cutting-edge crime and good old-fashioned detective work. And let's be clear, the stakes here were incredibly high. We're talking about an operation with a street value of nearly £500,000. This wasn't some small-time dealer, this was a serious, organized criminal enterprise. To really get how this all fell apart, we've got to step into the world these criminals lived in, a hidden digital shadow world that was designed to make them completely invisible. In their minds, they weren't just anonymous, they were ghosts.
And their tool of choice was a platform called EncroChat. Now think of this like a secret, super secure WhatsApp just for the criminal underworld. It had military-grade encryption, it ran on special modified phones, and it even had features like a panic wipe function that could erase everything in seconds. For these guys, it was perfect. They thought they were absolutely untouchable. So, inside this ocean of secret users, investigators started to notice one handle in particular, Dillforest. This user was a pretty big deal, directing sales, organizing the distribution of huge amounts of drugs. But for law enforcement, Dillforest was just a name on a screen, a digital ghost they had to somehow tie to a real person.
The criminals on EncroChat felt totally safe, but a storm was brewing on the horizon. A huge international law enforcement operation was about to hand investigators the exact key they needed to bust this secret worldwide open. And in 2020, everything changed. A massive joint operation called Operation Venetic managed to get inside the EncroChat network. All of a sudden, millions of messages that were thought to be completely secret were now readable. It was like someone flipped the lights on in a dark room, and the criminals inside had no idea they were being watched.
Now, this is a really crucial point. They didn't break the encryption in the way you see in movies, with some supercomputer guessing the code. No, it was much cleverer. Investigators found a way to push a piece of malware onto the EncroChat devices themselves. This let them read messages before they were encrypted. So it wasn't a failure of the math, it was a clever exploitation of the platform.
So, with access to all these messages, the real police work could begin. This was a painstaking process of just sifting through mountains and mountains of data, looking for these tiny digital breadcrumbs that might lead to the real people behind the aliases.
For the team on the case, the Merseyside Organized Crime Partnership, the mission was now crystal clear. They had to unmask Dillforest. They had all his messages. Now they just needed to find the man. And this is where our guy, feeling way too secure, started getting sloppy. He shared his postcode in Liverpool. He mentioned his birthday, the day and the month. He chatted about his family members. Every little detail was another piece of the puzzle for investigators who were slowly but surely building a profile of the man behind the screen. And the messages revealed the sheer scale of his business. It was staggering. We're talking about 63 kilograms of ketamine and a kilogram of cocaine. If you look at the chart, the vast majority of it was ketamine, valued at over £440,000. But even the cocaine side of things was worth nearly 40 grand. Okay, so investigators were building a really strong case, but they were still missing that one final undeniable link, the smoking gun. Well, it turns out they'd had it the entire time.
See, along with all those messages, the operation had also recovered the password for the Dillforest EncroChat phone. At first, it was just another bit of data in a sea of information, but it was about to become the one thing that would seal his fate.
The password contained a single word, borrow. That seems pretty random, right? Could mean anything. But when you put it together with all the other clues they had, well, this one word was about to become the linchpin of the whole case.
And there it is, the light bulb moment, the connection that brought the entire thing crashing down. The suspect was a 63-year-old man named Francis Ventre. And what was his background? He was a former professional soccer player, a defender, who used to play for, you guessed it, Barrow AFC. The password wasn't random at all. It was a piece of his own life story. He used his past to try and secure his criminal enterprise, and in doing so,
he handed the police everything they needed. With that final, damning piece of evidence, the case was pretty much a slam dunk. So let's take a look at how it all ended and, more importantly, what we can all learn from this spectacular failure in security. This timeline really shows you how fast everything unraveled once EncroChat was cracked. Ventre was operating for just a few months in 2020. By November of that same year, he was arrested at his home. Faced with his own words and his own password, he pleaded guilty just a couple of weeks later, and his sentencing came in early 2021. 9 years. That was the sentence for Francis Ventre, the man behind Dillforest. Almost a decade behind bars, his entire criminal empire gone, all because he picked one careless, deeply personal word for his password. You know, the NCA senior manager, John Hughes, really summed it up perfectly. He said, "My officers spent countless hours sifting through messages to painstakingly piece together clues. This wasn't just a lucky break. It was the result of incredibly detailed and patient police work that ultimately beat the high-tech criminals." So what are the big takeaways here? Well, first, encryption is only as strong as the person using it. Ventre had this amazing tech, but it couldn't save him from himself. Second, don't use personal info in your passwords. He literally used his old soccer team. That's the first place anyone would look. Third, it just proves once again that human error is always the weakest link. And finally, good password hygiene isn't just a suggestion, it's absolutely critical. It's the lock on your front door. And that really brings us to the final thought. Francis Ventre built this digital fortress, but he made the key out of glass. It makes you think, doesn't it? We all build these fortresses to protect our own digital lives. The real question is, what is your key made of?